Welcome to the Beer N Bulldogs. We're here to celebrate the American Pit Bull Terrier through history, responsible ownership, and appreciation. All discussions are for legal, ethical, historical, and educational purposes. No illegal activities ever. We stand firmly against animal cruelty and dogfighting, both of which violate the Animal Welfare Act of 1976. Let's keep it positive and give these amazing dogs the respect they deserve. Cheers!
About to go down, so who's gonna be my dogs? Cause I'm about to break some laws. I ain't supposed to get in any trouble again. If I do, they gonna put me back in the pen. But you like to dodge my calls, so I'm about to break your jaw. I ain't scared of doing time, it ain't even on my mind at all. So who's gonna feed my dog?
Hello.
Hey, Mad Dog.
Yes, sir.
Hey, it's Calypso.
Okay, how's it going?
It's going all right. How are you doing today?
Not bad.
Well, I was going to ask you a few questions if you're okay.
Yeah, okay.
So, Mad Dog, being that you've been in the dog game for a lot of years, what first got you involved with the American Pit Bull Terrier?
You're going to have to ask that again and breaking up.
I said, being that you've been in the dog game for so many years, what first got you involved with the American Pit Bull Terrier?
Well, I was a little kid. Me and my brother, I was probably about 6 and he was probably 5. And we had a house pet, a home, family pet, and she was a good dog, real smart, but just a regular dog. And in some neighborhood, well, there wasn't neighborhoods in those days. It was like everyone had about 10 acres,
Yeah.
And so way up the road, there was a dog that was a boxer, lived way up at the other end of the road. And that boxer came down one day and they got into a fight. Our dog and that boxer, and of course it wasn't really a fight, but we were just little kids, and of course we were running around bragging about how our dog beat that dog up. And of course neither one of them even took a hold, they just growling at each other. And we were bragging about it to my dad when he came home from work that night. He said, "Son, she's a good dog, and she's going to stand there and protect you boys. But she's not a fighter, son. She's not a fighter. But there is one that is a fighter." And he said, "It's a pit bull." I said, "A pit bull?" And we didn't know it. We didn't have any idea what pit bull was. Oh man, my old man knew.
Yeah.
And that's the first I ever heard what a pit bull was. That was the first. I must have been about 6 years old. Wow. And from that moment on, me and my brother both decided, we knew, we didn't think make up our mind or anything. It's just he planted the seed in our minds.
Yeah. Yeah.
About a dog that's unbeatable, an unbeatable dog. A dog that can whip any other dog, and that was a dog for me and my brother too. And so that's what got us in it. But it would be years later before we actually came to fruit on all that. It would have been years later. Guess I was probably in my mid to late 20s when I got my first one,
Yes.
And but that's the seed got planted, and that's where it started. That was probably 1956, something like that.
Wow. Ain't nothing like the old school. Well, Madison, having served as a U.S. Navy SEAL, how has your military background influenced your approach to training and working with the dogs?
Oh yeah, in a very big way. A very big way, definitely. Of course, in Bud's training, these guys, you're going through physically probably the toughest training easily in the United States. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Army SF and Marine Recon and all those guys, they do very tough stuff too. Yeah. Their approach is a little bit different, but in my day, when I went through training in 1970, we had a physical demand on us that like Army SF or Recon Marines, they didn't have quite the same approach that the Navy had. The Navy had an approach that was, because of the water aspect of it,
yeah,
it was so intense. I mean, before they ever put you in the water, they knew and understood that you had to be in very good shape because the water will suck the energy right out of you. And if you don't have a lot of conditioning, a lot of endurance, the water will suck it out of you. The water will draw it right out of you quick, and they knew that. And so they ran us, and they I mean, it was just a never-ending round robin of constant, working out the whole time. I mean, just working all that, running, swimming, calisthenics, PT, the old Jack LaLanne type of calisthenics, jumping and burpees, what we call squat thrusts, and thousands and thousands of push-ups. I mean, you get through a day, you're almost guaranteed to be every day. I mean, between no less than 500 push-ups to upwards to 800 to 1,000. And it was just a never-ending thing. So we took that approach. What I did in Bud's, and we applied it to the dogs. We figured if a human can do it and absorb that much work and still continue and still get better, stronger, faster, quicker, higher, then the dogs can surely do it. The dogs have way more ability to absorb hard work than a person does.
Yeah.
A dog can absorb 3 times, maybe 5 times more endurance training than a person could.
Yeah.
And if you're doing stuff in what we were doing in, going through frogman training and going through all that, then we know and understood that the dogs could easily do it.
Wow.
So that was our approach, and it turned out to be very effective. Most of these guys today don't really have a concept of, really a top flight conditioning program for their dog. They really don't. I think putting them on a leash and walking them, 10, 15 miles will get them in shape. That's fine. That's cool. That's their business.
Yeah.
So what they think, that's cool.
Yeah. So you were talking about your father planting this seed in your head when you were very young. But when did you first get your first American Pit Bull Terrier, and what was that dog like?
Bought the first Pit Bull Terrier from a guy named Pete Sparks. He was an old man at that time. Hell, I'm pretty sure he was near 90 years old then. He may have been in his mid-80s,
Wow.
And he brought the first pit bull to the state of Florida in the 1920s. He lived in Maryland in the 1920s. He drove a Model A Ford from Maryland to Florida. And he had, in the floorboard of his Model A Ford was a litter of newborn pit bull terriers. So he brought the first pit bull to the state of Florida. And he lived over in a place called Starks, a little ways from here, about 3 hours from where I'm at right now. Yeah. Up in North, he was in North Florida also, like us. Mm-hmm. And he built a reputation of being he was really, Pete Spark was an editor of, he was the editor of the Your Friend and Mine magazine. That was his magazine.
Oh, yeah.
Your Friend and Mine. His name was Pete Sparks, and he was a writer, a journalist for dogs. And he would travel all over the country reporting on the different, engagements between different people, bring their dog to see who had the best dog.
Yes.
And anyway, he lived over there in Florida, and North Florida, not far from where we lived. And we drove over there one day and met the guy, and he had a yard full of dogs. It was breeding that Tudor's Frito. Tudor's Frito was a dog sired by Daibo. So we had we had bought a female because we knew female we could breed to, another good pit bull. You buy a male, people don't want you to bring your male and breed to their females. They want you to, bring your female and breed to their males. But the vice versa is not the way dogmen do it.
Yes.
So we bought a female from him. She was that Tudor's Frito blood, and that was our first. It was I was still active in the Navy. I was still active duty SEALs. I had just gotten through, come home from my first deployment in Vietnam and Philippines in the early 70s with SEALs. And I had come home on leave, and we went over there and bought the dog. I had to go back and finish my time. And then whenever I finished my time, I came on home, after that. But
yeah. There's a lot of dogmen, good dogmen have, got out of the dogs, or, sometimes they, I see a lot of them nowadays, like switch over and, get into the Malinois. What was it about the breed that made you stick with them for so long?
Well, I just couldn't take a pit bull and put it over to the side and go get a dog that was inferior in any way. And I believe that with all my heart, that there's no dog that's superior in overall ability. And I'm talking generalities now. I'm not talking about specifics, because there are dogs that are probably smarter. Obviously, there are dogs bigger.
Yeah.
And there are dogs smaller, and there's a lot of things that more than a pit bull, but by and large, overall, pound for pound, the pit bull terrier is the superior dog on four legs. They're the superior domestic canine.
That's the truth.
They're superior to the Malinois. They're superior to all other breeds of canine. They're the superior canine animal. So how could I, put that to the side and go get a lesser and more inferior animal, a pit bull or another dog, when I've got the best that you can get already? So
yes. And I only ask some of these questions, Madison, because there's people that are, I hate saying greenhorn. They're new. They're new to the dogs, and and some people just want to know. So I always ask these questions. So.
I almost was going to get a Patterdale at one point, because I was really into the field.
Yes,
a lot of field stuff, a lot of small game hunting and stuff, but I just came to it. Floyd Boudreaux was a friend of mine, and he was breeding them.
Yeah.
And I could have gotten one from Floyd for next to nothing. He would have almost given me one. But I considered it, and I thought about it. I thought, you know what? I don't know anything about Patterdales, and I know everything I need to know about pit bulls.
Yeah.
And I thought, why change now? And then my record as far as the field goes, you know, I mean, nobody's caught more squirrels with less than I have. I mean, I never hunted a squirrel with a rifle or a shotgun, never. I hunt squirrels with a slingshot and pit bulls.
Yeah, I've
And
seen
if you can do what I've done already with pit bulls and slingshot, then more power to you. I don't know anybody that's ever done it. I don't know anybody that's doing it now or will ever do it. Can't do it here in where I live now, where I did it for 30 years, or actually more than that. But because we had a hurricane come through here in 2018 that just completely devastated our forest. It destroyed the entire ecosystem here.
Oh man!
Where I live, as with regard to the tree structures, we had some of the best and most beautiful old growth trees in the state of Florida, right up here where I live, and they all got pulled down, driven down by the wind. We had a Category 5 come through here, and so we don't, I don't hunt with slingshot anymore. I mean, I did, and I had a great time doing it, and I taught it for years. I taught the skill, and I would take people out on guided hunts with pit bulls and slingshots, and I provided all this stuff, everything, and all you had to do was just show up, and then I would take you and show you how to do it. It was very, very laid out, very well thought out. It takes, you can't do it by yourself. One person can't do it. You have to have a minimum of 2 people. And you need dogs. Dogs are absolutely integral to the whole process. So it's a team effort.
Nice.
It's very much of a challenge down here in these woods in the river swamp. The trees are 100 feet. Some of them tower to 120, 30 feet. And those squirrels will get absolutely to the very peak of that tree. But we had slingshots that would push past that. And we had the dogs on the ground that kept the squirrels in the tree. Because if the dogs weren't on the ground, a squirrel come out of the tree and get lost, you would never see it.
Yeah.
So it was a well thought out. We perfected the skill. We started out piddling around with it, and then it just got evolved into something way more intense. And of course, the best way to go would be like 3 shooters, maybe even 4. Now, 4 shooters and 2 pit bulls, that was the perfect combination. These woods down here, they're thick, they're very heavy, and the old growth, oh man, some of these trees 200 years old, Civil War era, big oak trees. And squirrels have so many places to get away from you, so many holes to hide in. We would stay with them. We'd learn how to do it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you are in Mariana, Florida?
Yeah, we're Mariana, that's right.
Okay. All right. Well, I heard you say Pete, and I heard you throw out the name Floyd. I'm just curious of, who are some of your biggest influences on your journey with the dogs?
Well, there was a lot of them, like Maurice Carver.
Maurice Carver.
I met him before he died. I mean, I didn't meet him early enough. I met him at the pit, I met him in Louisiana, in a place called Church Point. I met him over there, Lafayette and Church Point, both. And he was a big influence on me, but I think the biggest influence would have been Bert Sorrells.
Okay.
He, even though I was a little bit naive, even though I was a combat veteran by the time I met him.
Yeah.
But I was still naive, and I I could see quality I knew quality when I saw it. When I saw what Bert had, and I walked around his yard, and the kind of influence he had on me was probably greater.
Yeah.
Than anybody else that I had met up to that time. Jerry Clemens, he was a good, big influence. He was more of what I'd say, a standard of good, really. His moral standards were excellent. You knew when he was telling you something, he was telling the truth. He wasn't lying. Whereas a lot of these dogmen, especially Bert, he would lie to you, but you wouldn't know it. A lot of these old dogmen would lie to you, but you wouldn't know.
You said Clemens, right?
Yeah, Jerry Clemens. He was an honest, very honest dogman.
Do you remember? You said he said things, and I was just curious if there was any advice he ever gave you, or any dogman that gave you that just stuck with you on your journey.
No, nobody in particular said anything to me that brings back. Maurice Carver said that one time, and I think he took it for somebody else. But he said, "Son, women can never be so appreciated until you drunk deep from the bitter cup of defeat." And I think someone else said it, and he repeated it to me. I had at that point never heard it, so when he said it, it meant a lot. And we were in the winner's circle in those days, and I don't think in those days, 80s, when we really started ramping up and getting our feet under us and really going throughout the 80s. Hell, I don't think we lost it. The entire decade of the 80s, I don't think we lost maybe 2 matches the whole time.
Wow.
And we were probably somewhere around 50 or 60 matches in that decade, probably 50.
Yeah.
Probably about 50 matches in the 80s, and then went on into the 90s. And of course, before Michael Vick went down, we started backing out because it was starting to change, and the crowd was negative, and we knew that a lot of the dogmen that were top dogmen were using drugs or selling drugs to maintain their dog business.
Yeah.
Comes to mind. I mean, he was a good dog man as far as knowing what to do in a match and how to match dogs and stuff like that, which there's a lot to be said about that. But there was a lot of guys, but there was a lot of other guys that were dog men that were using the drugs. In those days, 80s was a big cocaine era, where they were bringing all that cocaine out of South America. And me and my brother, we just stayed with it. We didn't, no way. We were poor. We didn't have a pot to piss in, but we didn't get into the dogs to make money, and we didn't try to make money to maintain our dogs. So, and for that regard, we stick with it. But
were you guys in Florida at that time?
Oh yeah, we were always in Florida.
Oh, so yeah. I mean, from what you see, I don't know for sure, but I just watched the movies, and it seems like it was always going into places like Florida, Miami. So I'm sure you were probably seeing everybody was coked out.
Well, yeah, a lot of people were using it, but not everybody was selling it. But a lot of these dogmen that were selling it, probably top of the list in those days. I heard he was in big time with cartels down in Colombia.
Yeah.
And I don't know, though. I mean, I can't prove that. I only know what I've heard, but
yeah.
He did a lot of time for his trouble, that he got in trouble. But the problem with it, all that is that basically you're destroying a game that could have had honor attached to it. It could have had some kind of integrity in it if you'd have just left the drugs out of it.
I hear you.
And that would have made it I mean, while it'll never be accepted as far as fighting dogs, it'll never be accepted. But there is honor in it.
Yeah, because I heard there was a lot of professionals and who were doing the dogs back then. A lot of professionals were in that world too.
Yeah, there's no dishonor in combat between two people or two dogs or two two animals of any kind.
No,
there's no dishonor in that. The dishonor is selling drugs to fellow human beings to support your dog business. Which to me that was where it really started going bad. And while we didn't get out of the game, that's when I left it.
Yeah.
In those days we quit fighting dogs and we went straight to the field. And that's when I started my own survival business. Out of that came the survival business. I taught wilderness skills to the SEALs, and I also taught it to the Army SF or Recon Marines, and then I taught it to civilian population too. So I had a pretty good business going for a long time. And then when the hurricane happened, I had to lay that part down because the land got so trashed that you can't even walk through it now. I mean, all of it, all the big old growth is down, and you can't walk through there. It's all ticketed with yopon.
Yeah.
And all these huge monster trees that are laying down, you can't walk through it. You gotta step over and under and over and under. You can't go through it. You can't walk through it. It'll be years for anybody to be able to walk through these woods again. But anyway.
So I did want to ask you, do you think, back in the days compared to now, that was the culling process with dogs more serious?
The culling, you said?
Yeah, when you're in your breeding, was it more serious back in the days than it is today?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Back in those days, they understood the importance of having a game dog, because nowadays these young kids, they don't know, and I don't really know about what they're doing today. I don't associate with too many, dogmen around and what they do, how they deal with their dogs, and I really don't know their formats. I don't know what they do, but I know that 70s, 80s, and 90s, it was my time, as far as matching dogs. I mean, that's long gone for me now.
Yes.
But in those days, oh my gosh, it was serious business, because everybody knew that a game dog would outdo a biter. In the end, if you could weather the storm, you're going to whip that biter, because it's like it in nature. Anytime you see an animal or a person that has a skill that's really, really amazingly accentuated, and he's got this one skill that puts him head and shoulders over everybody else in that particular skill. Mm-hmm. But all the other skills that guy has are all meshed into that one skill. So they don't really have anything else. All they have is that one skill. Same way with a dog. When you got a dog that can really bite really, really hard, that's all he's got. It's rare that you get a dog that can bite that hard and be game too, and have, other skills, talent, and intelligence and things like that all in one dog. Very rare, very unusual. It happens, but it's very rare. So most of the time when you see a dog that's really biting real, real hard, more than likely, not guaranteed now, but thumbnails would tell you that pretty much that dog will probably occur. I'm not saying every one of them now, but more than likely, when you see that kind of exceptional talent in one part of their talent, their pool of talents, then he's probably lacking in all the other talents. He's got one talent, and he's probably lacking in the others. And at the same token, if you've got a game dog that's so game, he's stupid game.
Yeah.
He can't do anything else. That dog can also get in trouble.
Yes.
So what you want is a smart dog, an intelligent dog that's very game and has got some talent, doesn't have to have much bite.
Mm-hmm.
He is most likely going to be the dog that wins the day, provided he's got all the other things that are important, like conditioning and stuff. Conditioning is huge. I mean, it's so big. It's a great deal of the overall finished product.
Right.
But again, I'm out of that loop now. These guys that are doing that, I'm done. I don't.
I know you are. I will say this. So I don't think that you're on social media too much.
No,
you're not. But when they do have little things on some of these dog pages and they say, "Oh, who's the top conditioner?" or whatever, your name pops up. You may not know this, but your name pops up, and you're probably in the top 10 of those guys. You hear names like Danny Burton, but your name comes out, and so I'm just I know that Bulletproof Kennels, that you guys are known for producing top tier performance dogs. So with your breeding philosophy, I just want to know, what traits do you prioritize? With you saying it's a smart dog, but do you ever look for just, man, that dog's got a mouth, or are you just looking for more game, or what? How do you kind of balance it?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking for a dog that has all of it. And like I say, it's kind of rare, but you're still out there. I mean, they're out there.
Yeah.
In a yard full of, say, 15 or 20 dogs, if a guy that has those 15 or 20 dogs uses his experience and knowledge to get those 15 or 20, and he's got some basic understanding of what's going on, he's probably going to have at least one, maybe two out of 20 that are the unbeatable dogs. They're the unbeatables. They're the ones that almost can't lose unless you just make a big mistake and you don't condition him right or bring him in, bring the dog in light. That's a big, giving weight away. Because you figure a 38-pound dog, a half pound to a 38-pound dog is like 10 pounds, maybe even 15 pounds to you and me, as far as, we got in there to wrestle on a wrestling mat or jiu-jitsu or something, and we're going 15 or 20 pounds uphill. That would be like a 38-pound dog going a half pound uphill.
Wow.
That's how important it is. So you can't give weight away. Yeah. But as long as you do those things, like make sure you don't give away the weight, come in on the weight properly, and you're in good shape. I mean good shape. A lot of people don't even know what good shape is. They think they're in good shape, but they find out, 30 minutes later that they're really not.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell. I mean, how do you know if you're in good shape or not? It's a fine line. There are things that you can do and experiences that you can go through that'll pretty much teach you what being in good shape is and what it looks like. But it takes years to do that, a lot of years.
Which I was going to ask you, like, what do you think separates a truly exceptional working dog, from just a good dog?
Well, there's probably 3 or 4 traits that go into that. Would be gameness would be the first and most important. Intelligence, the ability to do defense and offense both. In other words, they start out playing defense and then they go on offense when they find the opportunity to take advantage. Because if you're a pure defensive dog,
yeah,
and you don't know anything about being offensive, you're not going to take advantage of the other dog whenever the opportunity arises. You just got so focused on defense that you don't know how to go on offense. A lot of dogs don't know that. Some dogs are straight offensive, and they're so offensive that they get in trouble because they push themselves all out in offense, and they don't know when to like switch gears and go back into defense. So that's what makes the difference between a great dog and a good dog.
And that's why it's surprising that there's a lot of offensive dogs that, defensive dogs who, beat offensive dogs because they, like you were saying, if you don't know how to be a defensive dog, it's a little bit of, a struggle sometimes.
Yeah, dogs, some dogs don't know how to do defense.
Yeah.
Offense is all they know, and they can get in trouble. They get overextended. They push too hard. I've seen it so many times.
Yeah.
That Johnny Walker Red dog of mine, he had the perfect everything. He was defensive in the early going, and we get you wear you down a little bit, he'd go offense on you. But he would reserve himself until he knew you were starting to blow a little bit, and then he'd take advantage on the offense. So that Shoshone dog that Bert had, he was oh my God, that was a great dog. But his problem was he had no defensive talent.
Yeah.
He was such an offensive dog that he stretched himself out too far, kind of like the old, I think that's what Muhammad Ali did with George Foreman.
Mm-hmm.
They called it rope-a-dope. And George Foreman, he got on the rope and let George Foreman punch himself out. And Ali just stayed,
moving.
defensed up. He had his guard up, covering his head, covering his chest and body, and just taking all these heavy punches from George Foreman. Foreman punched himself out.
And
when he did, Muhammad Ali took advantage of it. Foreman was finished. Muhammad Ali come back and beat him. Although I think George Foreman was the better.
Oh, George Foreman hit like a freaking, I don't know what.
Well, he learned a lot from that, but he did stretch himself out. He got, Ali was a strategic guy, but I never really liked Muhammad Ali. He was too provocative and too braggadocious. I didn't like that about him.
Yeah.
But the point was that Johnny Walker Red dog, we rolled him on a Shoshone dog, and Johnny Walker Red just was outpowered by Shoshone. He just outpowered him. But Johnny Walker stayed on defense and smart, just stayed out of trouble.
Yeah.
And got to that 20, 30-minute mark. And Shoshone was running out of gas. He was starting to blow a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Johnny Walker Red was dancing around on his head, ear, and on his ear and stuff.
Yeah. Would you say Johnny Walker's one of your favorites?
Started blowing. Johnny Walker Red come to the top and pretty much had Shoshone in trouble.
Yeah.
As far as pound for pound, Shoshone was badder. He was bad. He was a barnstormer type of dog.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get on a dog like Johnny Walker Red, you can lose, even though you're the more powerful guy. Johnny Walker Red just let him throw all he had, and then he came to the top the way Ali did with Foreman.
So
anyway,
I was just going to say, because I've heard you talk pretty good about Johnny Walker over these years, and I was wondering, would you say he's one of the best dogs?
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah, because he possessed everything. He had both. Man. He had defense when he needed it, and he had offense when he needed it. And he was game too, so he just had it all. 4-time winner. He could have gone to grand champion, but I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to hurt him. I didn't want him to get hurt any worse.
Yeah.
I loved him, and I didn't want to see him get. And he'd proven everything to me anyway.
Yeah.
I didn't need to prove nothing.
Yeah.
Actually, 2 or 3 time winners is enough for me. I don't need to get proven to after that. I believe in the dog. If he can do that, and in those days, and nowadays, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing out there. I don't know.
Well, I do want to say what you just said right there. I believe that that's what a real good dog man has. He has an eye to just know things, and he's like, you know what? I don't have to, you know. What would happen? Just lose a good dog, you know. People just lose a good dog. So I like what you said right there. You know, he didn't have to prove much more to you. You knew what he was about. You knew what he was worth. That's great,
right,
man. That's great.
So I didn't go grand champion with him, but I didn't need to.
Yeah. I was going to say, you know, being the conditioner that you were, what's the one mistake that you may have seen even back then, but you just see people doing when it comes to conditioning the dogs? What's one of the mistake that you see?
Oh gosh. Well, you know, I don't watch other people what they do.
Okay.
I see the end of, I see the result of what they've done,
Well,
but I don't know what they did to get there. You know what I mean? Because I'm not privy to anybody else's keep.
Well, maybe let's just say like trial and error that you may have went through. Maybe what's something that you would say, man, don't do that. I failed at something, you know, when you were conditioning dogs.
I'm trying to think. Say that again now.
Well, you know, like maybe you were doing something. Maybe you ran a dog too hot or something or whatever. Like, what was something that maybe in trial and error you learned while conditioning dogs that you're like, you know, I'll never do that again?
Well, breeding a dog while you're working him is one of the biggest. Mm-hmm. I don't think a lot of these newcomers understand that until they see it happen. I didn't know it. Nobody ever told me. I bred Joe Testament while I was working him.
Oh, wow.
About killed him.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it didn't really kill him or about kill him, but he was messed up. I had to leave him alone for about a week to let him recover. That's one thing. Of course, I'm not saying anybody's doing that. Yeah. Some people are probably, but anybody that does it's doing it out of ignorance.
Okay.
You know, but knowing how much is enough and how much is too much and how much is too little. You know, a lot of these guys think their dog is in really top shape and they're really not doing much.
Yeah.
And a variety of stuff is important, you know, like a combination of things, you know. You want an all-round kind of a well-rounded workout. You know, treadmill, turntable, flirt pole, walkout, and then relax time too. Rub downs, things like that. That a lot of people they just overlook or they don't do, you know.
You guys don't forget to give the dog the rub downs. You heard what he said. You working them out. They got muscle aches just like you from the gym. Rub them down.
Well, what I do is I build a table. It's about waist high, so I don't have to bend over and I'm not uncomfortable. Right. So as long as I'm comfortable, I can really I can rub him down. So what you do is you get a bottle of alcohol, pull him off, and once he's cooled down, put him on the table and rub him from his neck and his head all the way down to his tail. You spray that alcohol on there, on his back, you know, and you rub it all the way through his neck, down to his front shoulders, up under his brisket, coming around his chest and his back, and then coming down through his flanks, and rub him like that till he's dry, you know, from the alcohol. And then you take a little thin, sheer amount of baby oil on your hands.
Yeah.
and maybe rub that baby oil into him a little bit.
Yeah.
Doesn't take, an hour a day or anything like that, but you figure maybe 20 minutes every day after you're working.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most people think that you're overworking a dog when they've only worked 4 days that week, and that's not true.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give anybody the formula of how many days a week they should work, but 3 days, 4 days a week is not enough. A lot of people think they're overworking the dog by certain minutes, and most of what I've seen is these guys don't really understand. And I think I mentioned it when we first started talking about the capacity of a dog is 5 times greater than the capacity of a human being. And if a human being works out 5-6 days a week, getting ready for a particular contest, maybe a long distance swim or something, and they swim, say, an hour a day, maybe an hour and a half every day, 90 minutes a day.
Yeah.
A dog can do that much easy.
Right.
Don Mayfield, he was really into, to me, he was a little bit overtrained. But Don Mayfield, the reason he was such a top flight winner back in the early 60s when he was really going up, when he came on the game, he started beating everybody because I don't know where he learned it. It might have been Earl Tudor.
Yeah.
But Don Mayfield in his day was known as a great conditioner, and he wound up beating all the old timers of his time. He matched into everybody, and he pretty much whipped everybody because he had I guess it's an eye or something. I don't know. He just had a sixth sense knowledge about how to get a dog in shape.
Yeah.
And so he came out there and whipped a lot of the old timers that had been in a lot longer than he had. He was beating them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was pretty remarkable, really.
I watched a lot of his films, so he's yeah.
Yeah, he was a great conditioner, but some of the stuff I've heard him talk about, I met him years ago.
Yeah.
Back in the early 80s, I met him. He's a good guy. I mean, he's a pure, tried and true, real old time dog, man. He definitely, he had my respect. But I think some of the things he talked about were, in my opinion, overtrained. But he understood, dogs have a capacity to absorb more than you think.
Yeah.
They can absorb a lot more conditioning than a human can. So
yeah, that's true. I was, so I know that you're out of that game, but you're still a breeder, and I just wanted to ask, like, what's a typical day at Bulletproof Kennels?
Well, I still have my days where, not every day now, I like to put them up on the turntable at Carpet Mill and run them, 30 minutes every other day. Just is for them, not for me. It's not for any particular event or any particular, thing that we're going to be doing soon or something like that. It's mostly just for their well-being, because there's nothing better than having a satisfied dog.
Yes.
And when you pull a dog off the treadmill or off the turntable or maybe you just got a bicycle.
Yeah.
And a leash, and you get out there, if the weather permits, ride your bike and let him jog alongside. If something happens to a man, they just get so satisfied. They just absolutely love that.
Yes.
And it's just really nice to see a dog get satisfied when you when you finish working, and put them on a chain, put them back on their spot, give them fresh water, and they're so, well, you can tell satisfied, it's appealing. You can see it.
Yes.
So that's to me, what I love to do is be able to get my dogs where they're satisfied for that day.
Yes.
And then, that's just because I love them, I do it because that is for them. It's not for me. I know a well-conditioned dog or a dog that has plenty of exercise is always a happier dog. Always.
Yes.
So that's an average day for me. Work the dog, feeding time, worm out days. Typical day, beginning of the month, I worm out for heartworms. Feed about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, right before dark. If I'm going to work the dog, I try and work him a couple hours before I feed. I usually like to try and work them. When I'm in my mode, I work them maybe 3 days a week. And they're not getting ready for anything in particular. They're just working, because that's what they love to do.
So do you feed them twice a day, or do you feed your dogs
once? Once. Yeah.
I think,
dogs don't need to eat twice. They just need one good meal.
Yeah. I think it's better on their digestion too. You're right about that.
Taking dog food in a bowl in front of a dog that lives inside the house is a mistake. That's definitely a mistake. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Yes. So as a breeder, because I know you have some, dogs, that you sell from time to time. What's your process on bringing up a young pup?
Well, the first 4, I like to wean them off early. Biggest mistake most young breeders make is leaving the puppies on the mother too long. In my opinion, 4 weeks is long enough. That's plenty.
Yes.
So at the 4-week mark, right at the 4-week mark, I worm them and I take them off the mother and I start teaching them how to eat. I get a real shallow pan. I put the food in the pan. And I doctor it. I get milk and peanut butter and mix it up and warm it up. Not heat. You don't want to get it hot, but you want to warm it up.
Yeah.
And so you stir that milk into that peanut butter and get a mixture. And you feed those puppies in a shallow pan. They learn how to lick it. Once they start learning how to do that, and they're away from their mother, not eating, they're not sucking on mother, they're going to be more hungry, so they're more likely to eat. So you got to warm them out, and then you start feeding them. When you feed puppies now, you should feed them at least twice a day, even up to 3 or 4 times a day if they'll eat.
Okay.
You got to be careful that you don't leave them on the same dirt too long, the same ground too long. I like to get them off the ground they're on after about 2 or 3 days. They've soiled that ground. It's time to move them into another spot. So you need to have ground where, or a portable pen, a pen where you can move it, where they're on fresh ground every time, about every 3rd day. So they're not living in their own filth and they're not living in their own piss. And that's important.
Yes. Yeah,
so I did that. I do that this week, 6th week, 7th week. Just like that. And then I worm them every week. Worm the puppies every week. And I give them their shot, their first 7-way or 6-way shot right at the 5-week mark. And then the second shot was a 9-way. I give that at 12-week mark. After that, usually they get sold by then. By about 7th or 8th week, people buy them. Yeah. I sell them. I can't keep them all.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I understand that.
But get them off the mama as soon as you can is the best way to do it.
Yeah.
I can wean my pups at 3 weeks old, which really saves the mother a lot of wear and tear.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Well, Madison, this is the part of the show where I'm just going to ask you some quick fire questions, and you just kind of like take your pick between whatever, that I'm about to ask, So,
Okay.
I heard you say, the carpet mill, and I heard you say the turntable. Which one would you pick?
Carpet mill.
Carpet mill. Okay. All right. Is there a reason that you would pick the carpet mill over the?
It gives an overall better conditioning result. Turntable's more for warm up and cool down.
Okay.
I wouldn't use a turntable to get them in really top shape. I like the turntable to get them warmed up and get them cooled down. That's it.
Okay. All right. Collar or harness?
Collar.
Oh. Okay. All right. Strength or stamina?
Both.
Okay. Yeah. Kibble or raw?
If you can afford raw is better.
Okay. How about the chain setup or the kennel run?
Depends on how big the kennel run is, but if the kennel run was like, 50 or 60 feet long and 15 feet wide, and had a doghouse at the end of it up above, off the ground, I'd say kennel run.
Okay.
But it's hard to beat a good long chain.
Yeah.
If you got a good doghouse up above the ground.
Okay.
So I'd probably chain. It's probably more convenient.
Yeah. And I think it puts like a little strength. It puts some strength on the dog that, like they that they can deal with. It puts that. I think the chain does. Tug of war or spring pole?
I like tug of war. Spring pole, gotta be careful. The teeth of a dog are not designed to hold the weight of the dog. You see these guys with spring pole get the dog off the ground, and his entire weight plus the inertia of him jerking. His teeth are bearing the entire weight of his body. The dog's not designed to be fighting up off the ground.
Yeah.
That's why he's got 4 legs to be on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I seen those spring poles. They use it too much, and the dog's teeth are loose. They loosen them up.
Yes. You're right.
I'm not real crazy about that.
I understand. Okay, so there we go. But so I just, I wanted to ask, what legacy do you and Bulletproof Kennels? What would you guys like to leave on the American Pit Bull Terrier community?
And Madison Parker loved his dogs.
I like that. So Madison, what's one myth about the American Pit Bull Terrier that you'd like, to get the record straight on?
They're not a wind-up toy.
Yes.
They're not wind up.
Yeah.
They are flesh and blood. They have to be conditioned to do the performance that you expect from them. If you expect them to perform, you got to get them in shape to do it.
All right. And for someone, that's just getting into the dogs, you have any advice that you could give them?
It's hard to give advice when you haven't seen them make mistakes, When you see somebody making a mistake, that's when you give advice, but I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Be careful about who you listen to, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. That's good advice. Well, Madison, I think this has been a good interview for today. And I do thank you for giving me your time, man.
Yeah.
There's a saying they call give someone their flowers. On the show, we call it give a dog a bone. And I just want to, give you your respects, man, and everything that you've done for the dog game and how you've preserved, the American Pit Bull Terrier, man, which you've been a part of. And I just want to give you your respect, man, and thank you.
I appreciate the mention, and I'm going to keep doing it until I can't do it.
Oh, and as a U.S. Navy SEAL, I also like to thank you for your service. So,
thank you. Appreciate that.
Well, for all the people out there from Beer N Bulldogs, well, Madison, wait a second. Is there anything that you'd like to say or tell them where they can contact you if they wanted to, look into the Sorrells dogs that you have?
I have a website. I sell puppies. I sell pups.
Mm-hmm.
And all the pups that I have are from the top breedings that I make. I don't make inferior breedings. I don't make secondhand breedings or, less than best breedings. Everything I got to the top. As far as pictures, I want everybody to understand, look, everybody wants a picture of this, that, and the other puppies. But the truth is, you don't know anything about pictures. You can look at pictures, but you can't pick the best dog out of a picture. You can't pick the best puppy out of a picture of a group of puppies. You can't.
No.
All you're really seeing is color. That's all you're seeing. You're not seeing any other, talent or attribute or, better quality of this, that, or the other. All you're seeing is color. And if you're interested in color in this dog business, you're already on the wrong side of the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about color. It's about talent.
Yeah.
And it's about performance. So, I don't mind. I'll send you a picture here and there. But, having 3 pictures of the same puppy and having 8 puppies, that takes a lot of work. And I really, to me, it's kind of an insult because what you're saying is I don't trust you. I don't believe you. And until I see pictures, I'm not going to buy a puppy from you. But, that's your prerogative. That's what you want to feel about it. But I just think people put too much emphasis on pictures, especially newcomers,
Mm-hmm.
They have to see pictures, and they really, it's not promoting their ability to pick a good puppy. And in the end, they're probably sending somebody over here to pick it up, courier, to pick the puppy up and bring it to them. But you're the same people that want to see a dozen pictures of every puppy. And be honest with you, it's very, time consuming. It's a lot of work. And it's just not that productive. It really doesn't help the person that's buying the dog any in it at all, except you're going to see color. That's all. That's all you're going to see. This one's black. The other one's red. The other one's chocolate. The other one's a red nose. The other one's white.
I was just thinking how funny it would be if you sent them black and white pictures.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, true.
They're like, yeah, I want a picture. You're like, here you go.
Is this going to be on YouTube or what?
Yes, this is going to be on YouTube.
Okay, just let me know when you post it.
Okay, I will. I will let you know.
Thank you.
Well, and thank you. So for all my listeners out there, if you do get a dog from him, don't ask for a picture every single day. He's not going to do it.
I don't mind sending a picture here and there, but it's not going to be helpful for the person asking. It really isn't.
Yeah.
If they're worried about quality, then do your homework and find out who I am. Then you're going to find out that I'm not selling junk. I'm not selling trash. I'm selling the stuff that I like, the stuff that I've been using for 50 years.
Right.
So that alone should tell you. And I don't have any bad raps. I don't think there's anybody out there that can talk bad about me.
No.
That I've done something like untoward, like taking their money and not sending them a puppy or something like that. Which no way. I'd have never done that. I never will do it.
Oh, just take my word for it. I've gotten a dog from him.
Yeah.
And one of the best dogs I'll just say that.
Yeah.
So, to all you guys out there from Beer N Bulldogs, till next time, and you guys have a good day. Cheers.